Hi, Linda. Hello, everyone. We're back to discuss politics, world affairs, all of it. So, what's been going on with you? What have you
Well,
been
I
doing?
you mentioned that I look a little better. In fact, a little. I did use a little blush, but I'm getting more pinkish back. I was a couple of days ago. I was just malaise. Sorry, malaise. I was just really barely able to. I had to cancel my 3 card. I did it yesterday, but beginning yesterday, I started feeling better and got a lot of work done. And today I feel good. So I'm knock on wood.
Yeah, that's
So
good.
far, going good. You didn't get that cold. My poor Capricorn sister. She sounds like she sounds worse than I did. I was sick for 3 weeks, and I call her. So, hello, Deb.
Yeah, yeah, I
So
know.
yesterday, I got a hold of my son. I said, "What's a good Thai place with that coconut soup?" That I just feel like Deb needs a little Thai soup. So he told me where to order it, and I ordered it for my nephew and my other nephew who's a vegetarian. I was able to get his as a vegetarian. I ordered the soups. Oh my God, they were over the moon thrilled.
Yeah, it's strange this winter that there's a lot of that going around, but also I noticed that it's really, really extra cold in the east and it's milder in the west than normal because we've had a
Really?
pretty mild, yeah, less, the temperatures are warmer. We've had some days in the 60s, which is crazy, and just less, definitely no snow at all, no super cold temperatures. But in the east, they're getting
They're
like
getting
one place
below.
is
Yeah.
Baltimore will be like 14, and then there are places in New York State that are like near 0 Fahrenheit. It's really
Yeah.
cold. Yeah.
It was 37 degrees here where I live in Northern California. Slight drizzle because of the fog. It's supposed to rain Tuesday and Wednesday, but we were really low, like in the 20s there for a few days.
Mm.
And then we had that big rainstorm that happened. But yeah, we're lucky here. Of course, you don't want not to have snow.
No, because then you get, yeah, that melt, brings the water and so forth. Yeah. Otherwise, you can get states where they get droughts and yeah, absolutely.
But it
Yeah,
rains a lot in Washington where you are, correct?
a lot. Yeah. It's okay.
Because
It's close
the
to,
suicide rate is high in Washington, they say,
well,
because of the rain.
yeah, I mean, if here, the only thing good though is that if you remember to go out, there will be patches of sun, in between the days, but the sun is also very low on the, because it's really far south, so it's not very strong, and then it starts to move back. So in the meantime, you have to remember to go out. Otherwise, yeah, it can get really gray,
Yeah,
and
you can get
that's not good.
depressed.
Yeah,
There's
for sure.
lights now you can buy because I remember
Well,
Scotland had a real high suicide rate because they were just rain, rain, rain.
yeah, I have one of those lights where you turn it on and yeah, they're called satellites to help you get over your sadness. I guess, especially when you ponder, the president. I mean, uh, it's hard not to. I mean, sad isn't the word. More like an internal rage to see
I
a
mean,
person
I
who's.
that whole Obama thing, it was, and he knows it was terrible. And then they're trying to blame it on a staffer. He sat up there and deadpan lied and said, "Yeah, I was the staffer." That 2 o'clock in the morning, he got up and decided to post that, and everybody knows he's lying.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, for me, the takeaway, the most important thing is that when I see difficult astrology, I expect it to be difficult. Otherwise, then I would think, well, what's wrong here? He keeps stepping in it. Every time we hear something new, it's not helping him. And, it includes this thing with the Epstein files, which doesn't seem to go away. He wants it to go away. He keeps saying, we got to move on. But the more they hide things, the more they redact the names of people, the more they say, well, we're not going to release any more. It's not going to work because if you think about this whole thing with the MAGA movement, a big part of that, which was part of the QAnon thing, was this whole idea that there are these elite people that are getting away with things. Well, that's what this is. These are elite people with a lot of money and access, and they're doing things that people really disapprove of, right?
Right.
So this is the very topic that is going to have at least a portion of that group very upset. And so it's not good. But also, too, things repeat, the cyclical nature of things. Like, it's one thing to say to people, look, we've seen this before, matches the Civil War, that makes it especially bad. But think even more recently, right? In 2018, when the people that were in Congress started to realize we're going to lose the midterms, they were leaving, and something like 40 of them left, and then they took a whooping. And now the same thing is happening again. We're up to almost 40. 40 Republicans are saying they're not going to run. That's a tell. That's a tell that they know. And you got to also ask yourself, if they thought, these are the people in the government, if they thought that Trump could cheat his way out of it, maybe they would stay. But they're not doing that.
That's true. That's
They're
true.
leaving, right? So think that through. They're inside. Now, again, you can say, well, it doesn't matter because Trump has superpowers. He's going to find a way. I doubt this a lot. He's going to try.
I see Elon in a lot of trouble, and I don't see how Elon can help him. Elon even shut off Starlink to Moscow, and he's giving it back to Zelensky.
Yeah, well, Elon is he is, without being anymore in the cabinet, he's got 2026 problems for sure, because Saturn, just the way where it moves. And right now, I think part of it is probably the Epstein thing, because he was lying about his connection to Epstein. He said, oh, I got nothing to do with it. And now there are emails
Yeah.
otherwise. But I wouldn't be surprised if there's more than that. There might be one thing that, for example, could take a lot of people down is that this thing with the current stock market is really high, but it's starting to look more and more like, someone described it as, there are moments where you get bubbles where the reason for the bubble is actually a good development, like what happened in 2000. They were overvaluing all the stocks, and then there was a crash, but overall it recovered pretty quickly after that because the underlying was positive. Whereas in 2008, the whole thing was a scam, with the mortgages. So that took longer. But this one is more like the 2000 period, but it's still really overvalued because they're pouring all kinds of money and the return is unlikely to come fast. And so when you put together that, there's also Saturn for the country right now, this year. Saturn is affecting the American sun. So one of the ways, it's pretty obvious, hitting into a market house, that there could be a crash. And then a lot of these people, they have a lot of paper money, so for Musk, things could go south on that level as well, on the business level. So I don't know what it is 100%. I know that it has echoes of the thing with Epstein for sure, possibility of health because he's abusing it through drugs and, he's apparently high all the time, and business market conditions, but it's not favorable. Whereas it's been pretty good for him since last June when he left Doge. Jupiter has been in his sign, you can cruise along and mostly sit in the background counting his money and doing fairly well. But that will change for sure. Yeah.
So what do you think about Trump not playing golf anymore and stuff? Is there something loud and clear we're seeing, but he's not really doing anything. He's kind of keeping low key.
Well,
is that his health or?
Yeah, it's health. It's a bad sign. I mean, I keep saying in my videos, whatever I say about things that's not going well.
Oh, something's wrong with your sound. It's cracking. You don't hear it?
No, it's cracking the wind. So maybe.
I can't understand a word you're saying. So tell me.
All right,
Tell me more about Saturn in the U.S.
Well, just the U.S. is a Cancer country, and with multiple planets in Cancer. So, if Saturn is in a sign that challenges squares, which is what Aries does, it's going to be more challenging. And I noticed I went back many, many years and I could only find one instance when it didn't do too much. But the rest of the time, it challenges. Like for example, back in the Obama entry point years, that was the crash, and that was Saturn and Libra, which is the other side. And then the pandemic period was pretty rough too, because that's Saturn in Capricorn, so it challenges Cancer. So
It tells, yeah.
takes different forms, but we're in that zone. And then you also add all the people that are implicated, and it's just curious to see so many of these people that are in his cabinet: Tulsi Gabbard, Kash Patel, RFK, now Elon Musk, we mentioned him, Noam, all of them, they're pretty much in this zone where they get bad news, things happen, they got to pull back, So, and then if, let's face it, I mean, right now, this guy is underwater on all the metrics, everything, including the things that used to be his thing, immigration and the economy, they're really low. Well, if you want to drive the economy problem even lower, on top of the fact that we're getting jobs reports saying that jobs are being lost, which is bad, and people will probably know out there, right? They're losing jobs. But if you get a drop in the economy that is bigger, then that adds to the perception that, these people are terrible, they're not doing a good job. So, yeah, it's not good. And that's
But he's not even doing something like going to the Super Bowl. Is he worried about being booed, or
Of course he's worried. Yeah, well, San Francisco.
Health-wise, it's not good.
Okay, so you tell me, you think he can go to San Francisco and not get booed?
No.
No, that's why he's not going. It's not complicated. Why do you think Vance and his wife are getting booed in Milan? Because they don't like him there either.
They can't stand them.
No, I mean if people sometimes forget that lots and lots of people are watching, even though nobody's paying attention. Yes, they are. So they probably were in Milan and they found out they're sending ICE people over there. These Americans are at it again, and who's responsible? They know. I've connected with people in Europe minutes after the story breaks here, and they know more than I do at that point. They're tracking it so closely. So the world is watching, which, by the way, is the biggest enemy for these people, because whenever you compare to prior, authoritarian things happening, these guys want to always hide things. They don't want it to be up front. This is why it's so important. Keep recording, get it out there. And you've got gazillions of reporters. People forget that some of these recent scandals, like there was this, I think, 500 million payment in Qatar or something. That was a reporter digging. Otherwise, no one would know.
They wouldn't have known about it.
No. So you've got this huge infrastructure. And as you can tell, it's very hard to put it down. Look what he tried with Jimmy Kimmel, Then something happens, there's a pushback, he's got to adapt, and he'll keep trying. But the point being that if you trust the astrology model, and I would strongly suggest that you should because it works, he's got problems. He's got problems.
Well, let me ask you this. This could be fake news, but it's been on a lot of subjects here. Apparently, he's getting anxious because other nations are starting investigating on their own people involved with the Epstein thing.
Correct.
And he's worried that'll go back to him.
Exactly. And see, there's where I look in the astrology when I see that, where's the pressure? It's in the house of foreign nations. And so now that could be, yes, of course, there could be some kind of thing that he can't get around from somewhere in the UK or somewhere else, because it implicates so many people. And he knows very well, he's up to his eyeballs. He was his best friend. He's full of it. The remarkable thing about all this is that half the MAGA people don't go, come on, you're obviously a pathological liar. He's the pedo. He's the one, for sure.
Yeah, even Epstein called him a demon.
No question.
But listen, when I used to read on the Epstein thing, I used to always emphasize it seemed to be a foreign country that helps bring him down with the Epstein files. And I wonder if it means because the foreign countries who got pieces of this are going to do investigations, and they're good, a lot of things are going to come out even more so unredacted about Trump.
Yeah, entirely possible. And if you say Well, why? Because he's attacking foreign countries and they're defending themselves. They're now thinking this is one of the ways we can take this guy down. So they're
Yes.
gonna redouble their efforts. Yeah, and
I
in
mean,
that,
when he
yeah,
called, he said that other people sort of did something with World War II. All these people died. Oh, with Afghanistan for 9/11 when they came for the answer for America. And he acted like, oh, yeah, they stood in the background, which wasn't true. A lot of them died. People were so furious.
of course. I mean, this is like Bone Spurs draft dodger, and he's trying to tell you that actual people who, I mean, how can you not appreciate the service of someone that is willing to take a gun and get into battle? What are you, stupid? I mean, this is like
Yeah.
the most obvious thing, but that people overlook that is remarkable. And he'll say it, and like when he called people suckers and losers, these are the people that they saved us in the war. Otherwise, what would we do? Germany was trying to take over the world.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it's totally remarkable. But the thing is, I think the pattern that you identify is one of the many that points to potential problems, as well as that the idea that this whole thing around Epstein is nothing other than very rich people, the elite class, the class of
Yeah.
people that are way up there. They have a lot of money, a lot of social power. They hang around one another. This is the very thing that the MAGA movement and the QAnon whole thing, the QAnon was this idea, right? That the high class is controlling everything and getting away with everything. Well, now it's front and center. So as an example, you can bet Democrats are going to mention that a lot during the lead up to the elections, because they're going to say, these are the people. You can see them. You can see them right before your very eyes. They show you an email and they redact the name of the person. Isn't that the whole point? Like, the email looks bad. So you think, oh, that's bad. Who said it? They're not going to tell you. Why?
I know they don't tell you the people who are doing the business.
Yeah. And we've said this before, by the way. This is a gang of unbelievably incompetent people. The latest thing where I just read, I think today or yesterday night, that they had to pull back all these emails that showed nude pictures. How did you let that out? How's that happening? Who's running this? What are you guys doing? Does anyone do spell check? What are these people up to? It's crazy. It's completely crazy that they don't screen, Now, there are many files. I understand that. But still, this is your job. You got to hire as many people as you need. You don't want to be doing pullbacks because that always looks bad. And it keeps happening to them over and over and over.
Also, I got to ask you something. I don't know if astrologically you can touch this. What the hell was he thinking doing that god awful thing on the Obamas? What was that about? Was that
Oh,
vengeance towards the Obamas? Was that satisfying his KKK people? What was he doing?
well, there are a couple of things happening. One is that he's a sloppy man. And he hangs around really demented, crazy people. He does. I mean, he follows a lot of these guys that are always talking conspiracies. So this person that he pushed the video on, he has done it before. This guy the person that made the video, spends all his time cooking up theories about how 2020 was stolen. He said that someone put in a special chip in the machine causing the votes, all that BS, right? So then Trump likes that. It's possible that he didn't watch the whole video because this guy, because he's demented, at the very end of the video stuck the apes, with Obama. So then if
Yeah.
you don't watch the whole video, you miss it, right? That's one pretty good theory. The other theory, though, which is just as valid and just as true, is that he always does something to change the subject when things aren't going well. And he wants to get his MAGA people all worked up. And he knows they hate Obama, they hate people of color. So then he thought, if I push this out there, this will be good because I'll remind them, what team we're on.
Yeah, well, since he's got in office, he's removing Jackie Robinson. They have fired almost any black person in the Pentagon.
Right.
It's obvious.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but the main point is, though, that I was feeling, back in January, kept repeating it, this zone is not good for him because where we're in, the Uranus is parked there, hitting him really hard. Then there's the full moon that we went through. Now there's an eclipse, which comes next week. And even Monday, there's a trigger ahead of the eclipse that could bring up more things that are negative. And the other thing with him is when things are negative, he often is the architect of his own problems because he'll do something like what he just did here, where he looks bad. He's forced to backtrack, and the same thing is likely to happen. Same logic, right? And by the way, all of it, I keep repeating this, all of this assumes, because you were just saying, hey, he's not walking anymore. What's going on here? That probably means his energy is low because he's a guy that if he has any energy, he wants to get on the golf course and pretend that he's a good golfer, which he's not. But he'll go out there. And by the way, he never walks. Instead of getting minimal blood flow exercise, oh no, I'm not going to do that. He gets on the cart. So now he can't even get on the cart. Now he's too weak for that. So point being that it presumes that it's just political downturns, but it could be his health at any moment. His health is becoming a problem.
He's only got 4 months till he's 80.
Yeah, no, and that's how astrology charts. Like the same with Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell, he's been signaling this for quite some time. This is not getting better. There are a lot of planets in there. You start to see this problem when someone is showing you decline, and you see one cycle after another. You get out of one, another one comes in. You get out of that one, another one comes in. And big ones too, not the kind of thing that passes in 2 weeks. The kind of thing where, like McConnell, he's looking at 2027 minimum, 2028, and then he's on this third Saturn return. It's not a good scene. In the context of.
They showed him at the hospital leaving. He wanted to walk, but he had to have people holding him up. Yeah. And oh my God, he walked like a frail skeleton.
Yeah, no, exactly. So, and Trump might be in a little bit better place, but then Trump is more exposed, or maybe equally exposed, like McConnell, to the sudden, unexpected, shocking thing. And that, by the way, the whole country's in right now, because this whole zone in February, the Uranus is a sudden shock, something, even the thing, because shocks can be, I thought that would happen, but even when it happened, it shocked me, right? So the American chart is getting the pressure too, right? Which you see a lot, by the way. You see this a lot in that politicians that get to high places, they'll have points to the American chart. That's why, because the country resonates with them, right? And then that's why they get to high places potentially.
Right.
Yeah, so fun times in a way, but in a way pretty scary as well. I'll say that.
Very scary.
Yeah.
But the good news, this will be over at some point in time.
Yeah, well, and to me, it's still, I keep repeating this, but people constantly, maybe not constantly, but frequently, that's the better word, will say that, how can this be happening? And of course, yes, it's terrible, but it's hard to get around the established order of there's an election and there's another election and you go through there. If you imagine any other scenario, it's usually not a good thing. That usually means something terrible might be happening. So, and by the way, people will say too, yeah, but the Supreme Court. But I noticed they're not totally in the bag because they approved, Gavin Newsom said, well, if you're going to redistrict Texas, I'm redistricting California. And they said, yeah, that's, they said it's just the way it is. They could have said, no.
Yeah, and also they challenged Gavin Newsom redistricting, and they said, yeah, no, he has the right to do that. The people
that's
voted.
What I mean. That my point being that the Supreme Court that way is not, people have this idea they're totally in the bag and they're just going to approve everything. They're going with a set of rules, and yes, they tilt right for sure. Like if you had a more moderate Supreme Court, they probably would have disapproved more strongly of what's going on in Minnesota and so forth. But they're not completely in the tank as people think. And it's bad though. It's bad because the Supreme Court, they're dragging their feet on the tariffs, which is kind of bugging me.
They already know what the answer is, and I think inside people told Trump they're going to vote against you because they're already preparing for it. They're already preparing what they're going to do when they, and he's just asking them to give him some time.
Yeah, maybe, but yeah,
Because
it's one
that's
of
how
the,
they roll. Same with that crazy judge in Florida. And Jack Smith was asking her for determination, and she sat on it just
yeah,
because she could.
yeah. No, you're going to get some of that. It's unfortunate, but we're in an era where it just happens more, and you can blame him for it, or you can think maybe this is just something the U.S. has to exercise. And the reason that makes a lot of sense to me is that this thing about how we're in the Civil War zone of the Neptune. We've been here before. It was just as crazy. It took. We're right in the thick. We're inside it now, right? So it just has to get resolved. It has to.
Yeah.
We have to transit.
Well, he told Schumer, "I'll give you guys your money we're holding if you name such and such after me." He
Yeah.
wants a battleship named after him. And somebody was on the news this morning. They said, "Well, he knows when he dies, you guys won't do nothing." So he wants his name on things while he's still here. He wants to see his name on airports, blah, blah, blah. But you know what? I don't care even if they put his name on something for a minute, including the Kennedy Center. It's going to be taken off. They'll do something at the end because he was such a horrible president. A traitor. They'll say, get his name off of everything.
Well, and the other thing is that if in order to do that, you'd have to pass a law. To pass a law, you have to overcome the filibuster. In other words, you'd have to say,
Yeah.
we're going to name buildings after Trump. We're going to kill the filibuster for that, which they're not going to do. So then anything, if the House passed a rule, the Senate will turn it down. They won't get 60 votes. The Democrats will say no, and that'll enrage them and so forth. So in other words, yes, exactly. The next president can come in and say, down, 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 just point to it. Why is he naming the Kennedy Center after himself? This man is insane. I think that's another reason we know he's becoming more and more demented, because I think as bad as he was 10 years ago, he had a little more common sense. This idea, naming things, tearing things down, the whole White House thing, and then threatening to maybe doing it, or people are now saying he might do it to the Kennedy Center. He's really losing it,
He's out to lunch.
Yeah, because it's such a bad look, the idea that you're naming things. People don't like it. So
So what are we looking astrologically in the last half of this month?
we're looking at the eclipse, and the eclipse is
Is the 17th?
the eclipse is the 17th, 16th, 17th, but starts on the 15th when the moon enters the same sign as the sun, and it happens in late Aquarius, so it's a massive trigger in his chart, but also to the country. That's got to be an important zone in there. It's got to be something,
Something's going to happen.
Yeah, yeah. Or I mean, now there's a possibility that it already has happened in the sense of this zone we've been in, but in which case it's minimum March 15th before it's even close to a better zone. The problem with that is that there is no better zone, because by then Saturn's in Aries and it starts to move in, and that's potentially worse, worse,
Yeah.
because that's when things come out that really stop you. And you've seen it already. I mean, if you tell me, I heard him say things like, "Well, we gotta have a softer touch," and then this whole thing where about Minnesota. Then he was asked about, well, you've been saying that you want to nationalize. Well, that didn't work out. Then you want to go to these states, 50, and he said, "Well, no, we want them to invite us." Well, they're not going to invite you, so you'd have to willfully do something, right? So I think you're probably going to see more. They're going to try with the voter rolls and with different rules like ID, maybe things like that. But then you have to go through the state itself. The state itself will
and even
resist.
through the Supreme. I'm telling you, the Supreme Court's not going to okay any of that stuff he's doing.
No, so then he'll flail more and he'll try things, and then there's also the possibility that, which I think is very strong, he fails to change anything, and then he's got to argue after that it was corrupt. But again, I mean, if it's not close, you got a big problem. You got a
Oh,
big
it's not going to be close at all.
no. And the problem is that right now people are getting more and more upset because of all kinds of things. It's not a one thing or two. It's many things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Economy, the Epstein files, the thing with ICE, the corruption. Because he keeps breaking rules, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, and then that also matches. It matches his chart post the period. Like he's in a zone now that is very similar to what happened to him in the pandemic period when things got bad, really bad. Which by the way, I keep saying this to people. He's not always lucky. He was very unlucky to get a pandemic. That was a bad luck
When
situation.
he told that Dr. Burke, yeah, I heard if you put lights, if you
Uh,
use light and you drink, like Clorox or something, you can get rid of. Oh my. And she just looked down. She couldn't even look up. And that
yeah.
doctor, what was his name? Everybody hates him now, but I'm sure he's hiding somewhere. But he was a great doctor.
Oh, the guy
Um,
that he had as his doctor. Yeah, I know who you mean. Yeah.
not not ahead as his doctor. The guy he hated, but he was a good doctor for this pandemic. I
What
think
do you
he
mean,
worked.
Fauci?
Yes,
Oh yeah,
he was
Fauci.
like this, and he was doing everything in his power not to break out laughing.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, this is the. I think part of what's going on in the country is that we reach this point where experts, and they don't know everything, but Fauci, he's got a lot of experience. He knows these things. That's what he does for a living. But people got to this point. No, no, no. Anybody that has experience, we don't want that. Put a new person in there. Put in Sydney the Kraken Powell. She'll tell us what it is. But after a while, you realize, no, maybe people that have expertise are the people we need, right? And now we're seeing measles outbreaks, which, by the way, I'm really curious why uh, RFK is getting a massive hit this year in the middle of the year. Now, it could just be that they're all in a funk in the whole administration because, they all have these hits, but his is particularly big. One possibility is that he'll get implicated in, if not Epstein, something similar, some kind of thing like that. That's in the chart. But the other
Ooh.
thing, which is dangerous to the rest of us, is some kind of health thing, that affects the country, because that's what his chart is reflecting around that time. Both of those
Yeah,
things at the same time. And it's Saturn again. People like this, that's the planet that they have the most trouble with, because that's the planet that calls you to account. The one when the police
right.
knock on the door, someone that
You
they'll go,
know,
oh, we checked your DNA and you did this 40 years ago. Like
I
that.
just I still remember New York. Can you? With those, remember everybody would go out their window and yell or hit pots to kind of like humanize New York. And those big refrigerator trailers were just putting bodies after bodies after bodies. And those poor nurses that were working and they had to rebag their mask to save it to use it again
Hmm.
the next day. I've been out of nursing. I retired in 1994, I think. Yeah, I think 94. And then I went into administrative and then I totally retired, I think, in 2004. But let me tell you what, I can imagine they were using garbage bags for cover ups. God bless those nurses. They hung in there and the doctors too.
Yeah, well, that was a very tough time,
How
but
soon we forget. You couldn't even go in and see your loved one.
yeah, no, and the thing is that the worst part of it was what he was doing. His
Yeah.
leadership. I mean, he would say things like, "Well, we got to stop the testing because whenever we test, the numbers go up and it makes me look bad." Well, honestly, this is like a mental midget.
But
Honestly.
when he got COVID, let me tell you, we were this close to getting rid of him.
Oh, sure, sure.
Oh my God. Did you see him when he ran up the stairs to make and the way he was breathing, you could tell he wasn't, and they said he was serious. He was serious,
Oh, yeah.
but he's so strong ego wise. That's what keeps him going.
Well, that's also what tells you that because uh, that was a Saturn cycle. Saturn is connected to his health in his chart, so it matched the timing. Well, we're in that zone again. He's older. He's got some infirmities. these things repeat, particularly if you're already compromised and you're of an older age, etc. That's how astrologers do things. They look at patterns and they'll say, well, this happened here. It's likely to repeat, like a Saturn return comes back where it started. So then you ask the question on the second one, what were you doing on the first, and so forth. And
Right.
yeah, it's in there. And then it turns out that all the other topics that affect him go into the things related to foreign countries, but also immigration is in there as well, right? So which is why he's all entangled in these topics. But they're not, the numbers are bad. Every time there's a poll, and then if you think, well, polls don't mean anything, they must mean something, because when you're losing elections in Texas, that's
bad.
Yeah, it's bad. It's very bad, because
In the meantime,
yeah.
Our beloved President Biden, guess who's skiing today? This man has a terminal disease. He's over 80 years old, and he's out there on the slope skiing.
Yeah, well, he's. I'm glad to hear it.
But he couldn't serve as president because he was too old.
Yeah, of course. Although it is true that I gotta say, to be honest, both of them really. It would be better if they had some kind of limit on the age.
On the age, yeah.
It's too. I think a job like that, I would say, by the time you're 70, you're asking for trouble because of the demands. But definitely 80, I think you're getting way out.
Yeah, well, I'm 72, and they've already told me I can't run, so. I want men's night on Fridays. I want all the men's to have their night on Fridays.
Right.
No, you can't run. Actually, I got a thing, the Democratic people are looking for people to run, in the homeland right here in this area. And so other people told me they got an invitation. Would you consider? No.
Yeah. Nope. No, it's and that, by the way, that's if you ran just for office to get a seat in the House, it's not nearly as high pressure as being president is really high pressure, because you have so many different people pressing on you, and it's also this thing where you're always having to use your energy in a way is counter to what the body is asking you to do, because many times you might be too tired. And it's not good to go to a meeting and sit there and so forth. And this guy is, constantly going that way. Yeah, and the other thing, is this thing that in a way, it's his behavior, because he stays up at night a lot to do all these tweets. Sometimes they come out at 3 a.m. Is it any wonder that then he falls asleep during the day?
Yeah, and then he doesn't go into work till noontime, 1 o'clock.
Yeah. No, and I mean, look, the guy, every time, sometimes you think, well, oh, maybe he's not that stupid. Then he'll do something and you'll think, yeah, he is that stupid. He's telling the guy repeatedly, I heard him with this reporter, and he said this more than once, that he's trying to tell him how healthy he is. And he says, and I keep taking those cognitive tests. Yeah, but that's not, when you're taking cognitive tests all the time, why are you doing that? Those are supposed to happen.
He had a stroke.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, it's, so anybody that you've been picking up on that really caught your eye, that, within this group or outside this group, that you thought was interesting in recent?
I think that Tulsi Gabbard's got some come up that's coming towards her. Whatever is the secret stuff is coming out.
She does. Like, at minimum, I just know from the pressure of planets, she does, no question.
She's got, and I almost feel like she'll be pushed aside. And the other one is Pam Bondi. She's supposed to talk in front of Congress next week. She'll try to show that asshole attitude she gives, but let me tell you, they're going to hit her this time. Pretty good. Yeah,
no, and of course the panic for them, especially for Trump, is that they know if the House is Democratic, that ramps up with subpoenas, with actual investigations. You start to press on the money, because they control the purse. It becomes more and more complicated that way. So yeah. No, I was looking at this list that I have here, because in the next class that I do, I want to talk about the different people that look at charts for people that have been implicated in the Epstein thing, because that can be fascinating where you see,
certain
the,
aspects.
yeah, well, like why is it, that, especially if someone has been completely in the background and then they pop up in the foreground, you should be able to see something that tells
Yeah.
you. Yeah. And I noticed that that happened with two or three.
I saw JFK Jr. kind of sliding out with his druthers in check, like secretly leaving, like when all the pressure comes down, like hiding away or going to a different country or something.
RFK?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, nothing would surprise me when it comes to these guys because, when it comes to any kind of honesty, I mean, this is the thing, that adage, birds of a feather flock together. Why are people surprised that everyone is lying? Because the top guy, lies. Back when in the first term, he didn't have as many allies. So you'd get Paul Ryan. You don't like his policies, great. But at least he'd say, wait a second, this is totally racist. Now,
He
well,
doesn't have the check. He's got other racist people with him.
yeah, exactly. So, Stephen Miller, the whole bit, right?
But I do have some good news. Today on my local news, they said the Super Bowl tickets have dropped from 6,000 to 3,000.
I wonder why. Yeah,
$3,000.
it's expensive though.
I
Still,
know, but how's that good news? I mean, whoopee, I wouldn't go for $3,000.
no,
All
it's
that
super
crowd
expensive.
and
Yeah,
everything.
yeah, no,
And
for
then
sure.
uh and no ice is going to be there. I'm telling you guys. But it's I think I don't see anything bad happening with the Super Bowl. I don't see any terrorist action, although I know there'll be a lot of terrorists would love to do some action, but I don't see anything. I could be wrong.
Yeah, well, the thing with the NFL is that Trump has he idealizes the NFL, the tough guys and the whole bit. I don't think and he knows that there are a lot of rich, powerful men that own those teams and so forth. I don't think he wants to risk, the bad publicity that he would get. But I mean, the man is incredible. He was in an interview. He said, well, you get two people die, and he said no one talks about the many thousand good things that we did, like which ones. But then he goes, then you get two people, and then you get bad publicity. Now it's just people dying is bad publicity. I mean, he's sick in the head. He's
Talking
sick.
about two Americans that died. There's more people that died that were innocently taken
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah. No, exactly. So it's what it is. But all we can do is stay vigilant. I don't think by the way, we're saying this, but I think it's happening already. I think
I do too. I do too.
they're in this mood. There's no turning back here because of the alarm that he's created. So, now we got to see it through. And in
Yeah.
my opinion, just let the planets move in and
Yeah.
do what they need to do. Plain and simple.
Well, thank you so much. Hold on, sweetie. Let me put you on pause, okay? That my handyman is at the door.
Okay, so we're gonna end with the question of this thing with the Congress getting on the Clintons. One of the things before you say anything is that's another tell the way he behaved around this, because he was constantly, every time someone said something about Epstein, he'd say, "Oh, Bill Clinton, Bill Clinton." Now all of a sudden he's saying, "Well, Bill Clinton is a
He's a
nice
buddy
guy,
of
we used to
mine.
be
Yeah, I
friends,
really like.
and Hillary, she's a smart woman." What the heck is that about? I think two things that are probably true. One is that if you set a precedent and make them testify, then they can make him testify. And the second
Yeah,
reason, which might be even more true, is that he's worried that they're going to say something. You know?
yeah, that's what's going to happen. By the way, they're still doing it behind closed doors, even though they're saying put it on. But they'll have the what do you call it? They're doing like when you do with an attorney. What is it? You for a case, a deposition.
Oh, I thought that. So the Clintons will talk in. They'll still do it, even though it's not in
They
a.
want to do it in public, but they're going to do a closed door deposition that will be released according to the Republicans.
Right.
So I'm going to tell you, it's going to work out really good for the Clintons. And the other thing, don't mess with people with the IQs these guys have.
No, I know, because they're
They're
gonna.
geniuses.
Well, the thing with the Clinton, whatever you may say about him, he's a pretty adept politician. So I'm sure he's gauging and counting and figuring out. But the way Trump is reacting, he doesn't want it. Now, the other thing that can happen is that then because he says that, the Congress will back off because they know, wait a second, we're upsetting the boss, if we push too hard on these
That's
people.
true. That's true. And
Yeah.
here's the other thing I want to tell you guys, and I'm going to do a show later today. I'll talk about it more. But I just want to tell you guys that this is my hit. Clinton was not involved with the children. But Epstein, I told people about my uncle was an executive producer who has on his Rolodex every famous person and their home phone numbers. He was like that. Epstein liked to collect names and numbers, especially of presidents and top brass. But he flew him to places to show off his jets and stuff. And, Clinton doesn't mind talking about other people, gossip. And I feel Epstein spewed everything to Clinton about what Trump is doing.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah.
And he was like, what? For really? He said, yeah, blah. And I think he told Hillary at some point in time. So but I don't see, some people said they saw Clinton, but nobody said they saw Clinton with the younger women at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
In the chart, he might have to sort through for a while. Like really, the zone gets really clear in 2028 when Jupiter enters Libra for him. But before that, he has some Saturn. But I don't think not the kind of Saturn that destroys you. Just annoying, having to hear your name and so forth. But in a way, he kind of earned that because he got a little too close. He got a little too close to the zone, right? So.
But also, he's been very truthful to Hillary. There'll be nothing that comes out of the blue that she doesn't already know about.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
He told her all the gossip he heard about. Because I'm telling you, Epstein spewed because he liked Clinton. Clinton's got that personality. I probably would tell, of course, I'd tell anybody my whole life story. Knock his ass right out. But, he's that type that can engage, So he's not.
No. Yeah. 100%.
You couldn't tell Biden some stories about it because he would just be too shook up.
Right.
So.
All right. We'll end it there.
Thank you, my friend.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.